I'm Danny. I'm an alcoholic, and a little nervous. I don't usually spill my stuff out in the streets as much as I might a little bit today, but not too much. But and I always get confused as far as where to start. Like, do I start? I was born to beautiful white people or whatever the hell it was, And but I think I need to kind of start in that direction because I think it has a lot of the things that happened that affected my life, even to this day. And I don't talk a lot about it, but I will a little bit today. But, I was born up there in Worcester, Massachusetts, and I was raised, in the Irish Catholic family. I was altar boy, Cub Scout, all these things. I had two pretty cool parents, really. When I look at it now, when I was a kid, I played every sport there was, had every trophy there was, and it just seemed like the American family, But I grew up in a neighborhood where, the rest of the kids in the neighborhood, they had parents that were alcoholics and running rampant and hanging on the street corners and things like that. And, I hung around them because they were the kids to hang around with. And, and as time went, I don't want to jump too far ahead. My older brother used to sneak off in my sister's room and, touch her. And I don't even know how old I was, 13, 14 years old maybe. And it just broke our family apart. My parents was having us all go to therapy and all kinds of shit. My brother was 7 years older than me, so he was a little bit older, and he was already drinking and drugging, and so then came all the talk of the neighborhood. Everybody would make fun of my brother but say it all to me, dump it all on me like I had something to do with it. And so I kind of picked on a lot and didn't know how to handle it. I was a good kid. I was a guy that shoveled snow in everybody's driveway in the wintertime, had paper routes, and actually my dad used to, I used to do imitations, Daffy Duck or something like that, to my dad and my mom, just to make them laugh, and they'd chuckle and laugh, but all that went away when that stuff happened with my brother. And I look at it now, I understand why it went away, because my parents didn't know what to do, but at the time, our family just kind of stopped being that fun-loving, family. So we moved to another neighborhood, and if you know anything about living in neighborhoods, if you ain't the one that was born there, you're probably an outcast a little bit. So I got, hung out with these people and, got fucking picked on all the time, and I was like, I don't even know what I thought. I look at it now and I say, I don't even know what I thought, I knew that I didn't do anything. I just wanted to be kind and hang out, but it came to a point where it was like getting abused, you know what I mean? And I didn't drink a drug yet, but then along that period of time, 13, 14 years old, I ended up joining in on, smoking pot and my old neighborhood. I still hung out with some of them friends. I'd walk, whatever it was, 3 miles away to hang out with them. And in that neighborhood, we had a railroad yard, and where they switched the trains around and ship them all over the place, and we'd break into them, and we'd get cases of beer. And, it was like a ritual down there in the neighborhood. My oldest cousins, and we hung on one street corner. Then the next age, my brother's age, hung on this street corner. And us kids, we hung on this street corner. There was nowhere to hang around. And we'd all break into damn trains. And at that time, they didn't really have railroad police, but they eventually got them. But you know, all I had to do was throw a rock at the train. You didn't have to go up there, and it made a thud, and it was loaded. You know, and it made that little echo sound. You knew not to open it, so we didn't have to waste our time. So, you know, stuff like that. And so I started drinking and smoking pot, but I lived up in that new neighborhood, and this one kid was ruthless. He's like one of them punks that, you know, I was afraid of him, you know, because he's always punching me in the face and doing things like that. And don't forget now, all this shit with my brother still going on. You know, he was allowed in the house still, and then till eventually my parents had to throw him out, and then we'd have to go visit him in foster homes and shit. It's like, what the fuck, you know? And they worried about me because I was the next in age, you know. So I kind of got the overbearing parent routine from my mother. My mother was, I mean, she'd hunt me down looking for me on the streets. And I'm getting a little, I don't know, but to me, it affected me to the point where I had a dog. And it was the best dog in the fucking world in my eyes, you know, excuse my language. But the damn, I'd grab my basketball and I'd just bounce my basketball up to the park with my dog. And these guys that hung around with my brother, you know, they're already drunks and, you know, tough guys think they're tough guys and this and that. And one day one of the guys' dogs kind of attacked my dog, and my dog kind of won the little battle. But this dude kicked my dog, and I jumped on him. And I didn't know, I never fought nobody before. And I beat the shit out of this dude. And I look at it now, it's well deserving and this and that, but that started the ball rolling as far as seeming to stick up for myself a little bit more. And my parents didn't okay any of that. And so I started getting in more and more trouble. And my mother would always, I had a real close family, and my cousins from the other side of town, you know, my cousin Marty was the same age as me. Marty, you know, he's a great guy. But I used to get, my mother would say, Marty wouldn't do that. Marty wouldn't do that. And I, you know, started getting multy with my mouth, and I thought, well, don't fucking hang out with Marty, you know what I mean? I mean, I don't know why I started acting the way I did. I don't even think I was really that addicted to drugs or booze, but my life kind of like came to, it turned a little bit. Like they say that Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. I didn't know what to do. So I continued to drink and drug and do all these kind of things, and I continued, and then I started like blacking out and not even remember what happened, and you know, things like that. But it was always somebody telling me, I can't believe you did that last night. I can't believe you did that, you know. And I'd get defensive and try to, you know, defend myself on things that I don't even remember happened. And so I just started falling back, you know, back and back. And it seemed like it kept snowballing till it seemed like I was alone in life. And, you know, I remember my first girlfriend, you know, when she broke up with me. Oh, I was so heartbroken, you know, and cry like a baby and think it's the end of the world and this and that, and nobody to talk to her about it. You know, my mother would say, I can't be bothered right now. I got my own problems, you know, and she did. She did. I look at it. I mean, my brother, that had to tear up broke their hearts, you know, real bad. But I didn't, you know, I was being young and dumb and all this. I didn't look at them that way. I just started looking at them as I had the best parents in the world growing up, and all of a sudden I started saying they were the worst parents, you know, because they'd correct me. You know, my other friends, the parents didn't really seem to correct them, you know. They got to run around crazy, so it just didn't feel like I fit in anywhere, you know. And so, make a long story short, it just continued on like that. No matter what anybody said to me, you know, I took offense to it and got angry, and you know, I built up walls, like, you know, that it took me a long time just to even kind of talk about that kind of stuff. So, but I'm, you know, using more and more. And then when I didn't have it, I was wanting it. You know, started that obsession in the mind thinking, and it hit me hard. I mean, really, the obsession was always my problem more than anything else, because if I didn't have it, man, I wasn't happy. And I never looked at it as, you know, this will make me feel better or this and that. It just, I was craving it. And I know a lot of people think that marijuana ain't addicting, but to me, I believe it. I was addicted to it. And if I didn't have it, I say it all the time in meetings. You call that guy up on the phone and ask him, hey, can I score? And he says, yeah, you can. Well, I was automatically happy without even damn lighting up. And I mean, I was happy just the thought knowing I was going to have it. And if they said, no, you can't do nothing until next week or whatever, man, everybody in my life paid hell, you know, and they didn't do anything except for loving me, you know, basically. So it continued, and then I started getting in trouble with the law and, like, you know, relationships, and things were just snowballing. It was getting worse and worse every day. People were afraid to be around me. They tell me, even later on in life, that, you know, my sister, you know, said I can come see my mother when she was in, what do they call it, hospice or whatever. And it's funny, the dementia thing, you know. My sister said I can come down there this was after 25 years. I know I bounced around a little bit, but while I'm on this point, I think it's kind of funny that, she said, you can come see Ma. But I'll be honest with you, you know, I'm still scared of you. You know, that's how bad it was. And, I never once wanted to hurt any of them, but I sure the hell did. You know what I mean? When I look back at it now. And, so my mother sitting there reading the newspaper, my sister was seeing her at the place she was living, and she didn't recognize me. She just reading the newspaper, and there was a picture on the wall of my cousin's, my nephew's wedding, and she's in it, and I mentioned something about I bet you were dancing, huh? Something like that, and she never responded, and this and that, and then it was kind of a long lull there. You know, my sister was there, my brother was there. And I looked at her, I says, I was your problem child, wasn't I? And she looked at me, looked away. And then she looked at me again and says, yes, you were. You know, I swear to God, she knew me. But I honestly believe that, you know, the look on her face made me think that she was happy about it, though, to see me and know that I was, you know, still alive, really, probably more than anything. I mean, I was in prison a couple of times, but I jumped way ahead, but, you know, things like that. But when I came in the rooms, I started, you know, getting in so much trouble, and I had a son out of wedlock with a girl that I didn't even love. I was using the hell out of her. You know, she paid the rent, bought my drugs, and she ended up getting pregnant. And that pissed me off, because I remember clear as day saying, I don't want to bring a child into this world. I didn't. And she did. You know, the miracle. I took the pill, but I still got pregnant, damn speech. And so I had a resentment over that. I knew that, you know, I didn't really think there was anything good in life anyways, and sure didn't want to see anybody else have to go through what I went through. So, you know, that type of stuff. But, so she got tired of, you know, getting used But I was getting in trouble with the law, and my uncle, he was my drinking buddy, and Warren met him, and he's a really cool guy. He was a Vietnam veteran and loved to drink, loved having me around because I was his little sidekick. You know, I was getting in bars when I was like 16 years old, you know, but these are like these low bottom bars, you know, because where I lived, you could cross the street, zigzag up and down one street and hit 20 bars before you get to the end. There were so many bars in the area, and we'd always be in that damn low bottom drunk bar. And my uncle loved playing cards with all the drunks and winos and take their money, you know. They were easy to beat. And we'd get kicked out of that damn bar every night. And my uncle would go, don't worry about it, you know. And he'd go back to the owner and say, man, I'll fix that, you know that bar door that they slide over and pick up like this? He got in a fight with some dude and got busted off its hinges, and he promised to come back the next day and fix it, and the guy let us back in the bar, you know. And it was that kind of stuff. But so he really encouraged me to drink more. Not that he wanted me to get in trouble, but it just happened that I'm going to get in trouble if I drink. And Bob wasn't always like that, but he's a shit starter in the bar. And I'd be sitting there holding on to my mug or glass bottle or whatever, just waiting, you know, to have to hit somebody with it. Because he'd start off telling jokes to everybody, and everybody would love him. You know, I mean, they loved the hell out of him. It's kind of like Brian and Warren, you know, they could tell a million jokes. My uncle was that way. And me, I was just a quiet guy sitting there at the bar watching the whole scene, you know, getting ready to help my uncle if I have to. And he moved down here, and I was getting in trouble with the law. Everybody in my family was scared of me. I didn't even realize it, you know, until later on, how scared they were of me and my unpredictable mood swings and this and that. And I don't think if I look back at it, I don't think I was very happy at all. And, you know, unless I got more. So I was in trouble. I had 2 felony charges on 2 different events up there, and I bonded out, and my uncle was living there, and he told me to come on down. There's tons of work, you know. So I said, oh, okay. And I jumped on the Amtrak train, actually, and came down. So I was with my drinking buddy. I was still able to drink. And, but I was away from all the people that was, you know, I was having conflict with because, you know, they weren't kissing my butt the way I was living my life. So I think that needed to be said because of the way I felt, you know, as far as life. And I kind of like went from, like I said, my dad used to call me Dapper Dan, you know, because I was always trying to make him laugh, and I was a good kid. And I'm a good guy now too, but I'm not like that, you know. And all the Dapper Dans and all the attaboys and this and that, they could. I try to put myself in their shoes of having a son that molested his dead daughter, have me, who was an addict and rageful on everything, and I just often wonder how I would feel if it was me having to put up with that kind of stuff. So I ran from the law. I jumped bond and took off, and I lived down here, you know, partying with my uncle. But I was coming to AA. Bob would sit out in the truck. Well, I was never court ordered to come to AA. I was never told to come, but I knew about it. And I came around, and that was like in 91 I first come to this building. And I just got kicked out of 8111 Club. I was like a dry drunk. and I beat the hell out of some guy out there in the parking lot one night. And I had a little black eye, but they kicked me out of the clubhouse at 8111. And I was sitting back there under the clock. It was one of them speaker meetings, and I can never remember his name. Was it Ben, the older black guy that used to tell his story up here and hang out? I don't know. But he told his story. And I was sitting back there. I had a pair of sunglasses on because I had a little black guy. And I didn't know anybody in these rooms. And he told his story, but I could identify with him. For some reason, I was sitting back there crying. And it wasn't that I was like homeless or nothing, but I got touched in some way with what this guy was saying, and I could identify with what he was saying. And Mike Cook gave the chips out that night, and he used to say, I'm not going to put this, you know, they say, if you feel like stealing this chip gum, I'll leave it on the table. He says, I don't do that. It's supposed to change our behavior. No thievery allowed, you know, you had to earn it. And I did. I came up and got a chip. And so I think I had the desire, you know, but I didn't know anything about AA. I still was so wrapped up in my head about my life and what am I going to do and, you know, the poor me's or whatever it was, you know. And I don't think I ever looked at it. If you had my problems, you'd understand type of guy. I'm not like that. But I started over the years coming around more and I remember I asked Jim Higgins to be my sponsor. I was sitting in the middle table there where the lady with the green hat is sitting. And Jim's cheering me and then he goes, hey, you with the Red Sox hat, you want to share? And I, of course, had an attitude about that, you know. He said the Red Sox have, you know. Like I took offense to it, like he was picking on me. But I asked him to be my sponsor, and he was willing. He'd still be willing. But I wasn't. I sat down at his house back when he lived in the trailer park down there over Dupree Road, and he was willing to help me in any way possible. But I wasn't ready. And I kept blah, blah, all that stuff. And then I started getting in a little angry things that still kept popping up in my life, was getting me thrown in jail. And you know, it was like a same thing over and over, like, you know, merry-go-round. Kept going round and round. And I had people in these rooms that it irritates the shit out of me because I did it, is that, damn, they come in, tell you how many problems they got and how I need help. And then you come around for a little while and you feel good and all of a sudden I don't need you anymore. And then they're back out there drinking again. And it's like, Jesus Christ. But I mean, I guess that's, some of us have to go through that. So, you know, I don't want to get into too many damn war stories or anything, but, there was some good people here when I got here. I mean, this place is mobbed compared to how many people used to come when I got here. And everybody would sit down at these tables in the front. And I'd sit in the back there with Harry O would pull his wheelchair up and sit in the back. And he was the only one I really talked to. And he was always cool to talk to, you know. He never said anything bad about anybody, you know. But I was welcome to come. They kept telling me to keep coming back, even though I was like, you guys are full of it, you know, and this and that. And, you know, little did I know I was the one who was full of it. And it's just weird how it took so long to realize how much of a fool you really are, you know. And but I was very full of that guilt, shame, and remorse that they talk about. And you know, I look at it now, it still bothers the shit out of me. You know, how the hell could you have done that to them, you know? And I knew I was going to cry because I don't talk about this stuff. And I probably needed to do this, open up, and I'm hoping because I'm saying some of this stuff that I'll open up even more. You know, I don't want all of you to know my shit. I came in here one time, told everybody every rotten thing I did. I was running from the law and this and that, and they called the cops on me. That's the God's honest truth. And twice. And so, you know, I had a little trust issues there. Like, what the hell was Bob Lowe's wife's name? She was like a big woman sponsor, but like Nazi fucking damn guard over the woman around here, and I'm, running around trying to, fool around and all this other stuff, and they hated me. Even when this beginners meeting, Ellen, I was at the very first beginners breakfast club meeting when it started, but Ellen, oh my God, she'd lay into me and Brian, because we're chasing chicks. Yeah. I swear to God. And then, of course, our response is, go after yourself, and Ellen would, she probably had reasons to not like me, but as time went on, she learned to love me, though, because, things started to change if I keep coming around. I just didn't do the steps and do the things like I was told. And I got exactly what they tell you to get. I got it exactly. And why I waited to learn that lesson the hard way, I don't really know. But I know when these people tell you, these simple suggestions work, you might want to try them. Your life will get better and this and that. They're not lying to you. There's nobody in here getting money for damn telling you any bullshit or anything like that. They're not getting any trophies for them being number one sponsors. Even though there are many people up here that are really awesome sponsors and stuff, it's just that we're stubborn. I was stubborn, and I had a closed mind, and I still was in my poor me's and the guilt that I was carrying around for all the rotten things I did to people in my life. And I know today, if I didn't come in here and finally pick up these steps, I'd be in jail. I ain't one of these ones that believe that if I use again, I'm going to die. I honestly believe I'm just going to live a miserable existence until I die, And cause I forgot to mention, and I'll mention it real quick, is that back when I was younger and all that was going on, and, dealing with being a kid and putting up, how to handle it right. I was raised right. I knew what to do, how to behave, and this and that. But when I finally got into my head about a little lost, not knowing what to do, not having anybody to talk to, I did have an aunt, Marty's mother. She had 6 kids, and her youngest is handicapped. He's been handicapped for 57 years now, in a wheelchair his whole life. And she, took care of that kid. He never needs for anything. He's still alive. And she's 86 years old. And I was talking to her the other day. She was the only one, though, back then. She'd come to the house. And my mother used to call her on the phone every night, crying, not knowing what to do with us kids. My brother and me, and then my sister that was 11 months younger than me, she started. And my poor sister, getting touched by her brother, and I'd get in fights with her fucking husband. They used to give her black eyes, but I guess I went overboard when I got in these fights, and they used to get mad at me. And I'm sticking up for my sister, and I just couldn't, but I went overboard, I'm trying to kill somebody, and instead of just knocking them on the ground, I'm going to knock you on the ground and I'm going to stomp on your head type of guy, when I'm scared, and I'm fearful. And anybody says they're not scared in a fight, they're lying, unless you just got no brains whatsoever. I don't know. I don't want to get hurt. But I did get hurt many times too fighting. So, and just thought it was just the way it's the way it is. You win some, lose some type things. But my aunt used to come to the house and my mother would call her, like I said, on the phone. And, I guess I'm saying all this because, to show the alcoholism doesn't only affect the drunk, it affects everybody in their family, type of stuff. So, but my aunt would come. We had a wall outside the house, and we'd sit out there, me and my aunt. And I can't tell you exactly what she said or anything like that, but she sat there with me, and talked me off the edge. I had a couple suicide attempts I forgot to mention. This is so much. My brain is so scattered, and I tried not to think about anything except for trying to say the right thing, And the right thing for me is that if you did what I did, you're on the wrong track. You know what I mean? And now I can say I'm on the right track a little bit more, and there's always room for more. But my aunt's still alive. And when I went up to Massachusetts, I had to go turn myself in on them charges that I fled from like 25 years later. And had to go and face the judge. And I got to sit with my whole family, Marty and all them. Now, I say Marty, he's a really good guy, But I hear that Marty wouldn't have done that. But Marty used to do that with us when we were drinking. He just never got in trouble. But sitting around, and she has a big picnic table because she had a big family for a dining room table. And she'd make me sit at the very end of the table, and she'd sit at the other end like king and queen. And the rest of the family's around us. And cousins, I love them. They never did anything to me. They treated me like, I was a long-lost cousin when I showed up. Even though we didn't talk for all them years, you don't talk to everybody. And my aunt started talking about my mother calling her on the phone and not knowing what to do. I'm sure my mother thought of suicide. I'm sure she must have, how did I raise these kids? I didn't raise them right. I know she had to go through that, and she didn't know what to do. And she'd call her sister up on the phone and crying and asking. And my aunt's telling me that she did this like every night. And she'd go over there and drink coffee and just have somebody to comfort and talk to her or whatever it was. Me, I'm already on the streets. I'm running. I don't know what anybody was doing in my family. But she said that my aunt in her mind is thinking, what the hell? I got 6 kids to raise myself. I can't raise your 4 too, And she's telling about the stories about my mother, and she's giggling, laughing, but it was like, how it was like instead of crying, you laugh type of deal, And I said to her, it was terrible, wasn't it? And she said, yeah. But she said it not to hurt me. She's so proud of me right now. I guess this is good for me, huh? Big baby. I never talk about this stuff. I know Warren for them the whole time I've been here. I don't know if we ever talked about any of this stuff. There's a few others that have been around for a long time, but I never talked to you. I just keep my mouth shut and try to deal with it the best that I can. So it's me not working the program, really. It's like, I guess it's cleansing the crying. But I was going to make a joke about bringing up the biggest box of tissues up here today. But I knew I was going to cry, though. because I sit at home now that I'm in the program and actually did the steps. Yeah, thanks. You know, I already know I'm never going to hear the end of this with Robert. You know what I mean? Tries to mother me. He tries to mother me. But I'm able to laugh today. I'm able to, you know, I don't think I'll ever get over the fact I did the shit that I did. I mean, I'm over it to the point where I don't let it make me want to commit suicide or anything like that. But man, there's times I'd sit alone and think about my past or think about, you know, I'll see a little video. It gets me every time. Some little kid, like my son hasn't seen me since he was 4 years old. You know, and I wrote amends letters. I tried. His mother hates me so much. She'd call the law on me and for just writing an amends letter, you know. And so it was kind of blocked. But for some reason, a 4-year-old boy growing up without a dad, and I wouldn't have been a good dad. It took me a long time to come to the conclusion that his mother did the right thing. But it took me a long time to realize it. And but it was the best thing she ever could have did. I wrote that in the amends letter. I said, your mother loved you. She wasn't going to let me harm you in any way. You know, and I was this close. You know, use that Facebook Messenger, typing in a couple messages. And it seemed like there might have been an opening that maybe I'd at least get to hear his voice. And he just all of a sudden stopped. And everybody's telling me, you need to keep trying. And I said, no, I need to leave him alone. He doesn't want it to be, you know. And I would love to make it better, but would it be better? I don't know, you know. So I just try to live life and the things that are coming into my life and things that bother me. I try to just, I know a drink or a drug isn't going to solve any of it. I know it. Thank God I know it. And, but there's more room for growth. I mean, I'm 13 years sober, which don't really mean a hill of beans or nothing, but 13 years sober is better than 13 years drinking. And so that's a plus in my life. I probably could have used intense counseling. Little Heather told me one time, Jesus Christ, she stands this fucking tall. And, she wasn't afraid to say anything. And, one day me, her and Kyle were driving down the street. It was probably a 12-step call Kyle and Heather were doing. And I'm just going along for the ride. And, something was brought up and Heather says, she turns around, she said, you need serious counseling. And I'm talking years. I swear to God. You know, of course, I'm like, go to hell, you know. But there were so many people that gave me helpful suggestions that I didn't take that probably would have helped. But I don't know, I'm glad. I mean, I could go on and on about war stories and tell you how many people got hurt and this and that. I got hurt. You know, my family got hurt. People I loved, you know. And not one day did I ever wake up saying, I'm going to do that, you know. But the addiction was so strong, it had control over me. It was so powerful that I would have done anything to get more. And I would have hurt people. And I can prove that I would have hurt anybody. So, you know, so I'm hoping, I try not to think about what to say. And I am not big into glorifying, you know, the hatred that I spewed out there in life or how many times I've been to jail or this, that, because I've been, you know, a few times and I hurt people and they hurt me. And the main thing is healing. And that's what I try to do. I do it on my own too much, you know, but it's getting better. It's getting better. I mean, I got to deal with Robert every day when he comes and gets me. But I'm grateful because this past year I ain't been working. And I'll shut up with this. You know how many people told me, you look so good with that haircut today? You know? I'm like, What the fuck? I cannot take a compliment. No, seriously. You're like, oh, you got a button-up collar shirt on. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't, don't always crawl up from behind the dumpster. But they said, I heard somebody say, and that's the only reason I put a collar shirt on. I think Barry Sturter told a story up here one day. And you never know, Barry, he wears shirts like me, cut off sleeves, dirty from work all the time when he comes to meetings. But he came up one day and told a story, and I've heard it for years. If you come up here and do this, you try to let people know that AA makes me this kind of man, because if I was drinking and drugging, I'd be with the cut-off shirts, probably dirty and bloody and all kinds of crazy stuff. So I'm glad I found AA. I'm glad I found the How Place. The How Place has helped me a lot, It's just that it was slow because of me. And if I can suggest anything is just do the work. It's really not that bad. And I believe that your life will get better. And I'm not talking money and this and that. I'm talking girlfriends and this and that. That might ruin you. It's like, I remember one time it was probably years ago, but I was hurting. And for some reason the words came out, God softened my heart, and I believe he has. Now, the rest of me probably needs to be worked on a little bit, but I don't know. I'm grateful. I'm glad that, you all showed up and this and that. And if you ever need anybody to talk to, I am that type of guy. I just don't sit around and read big books with people and stuff, which is something I probably could get to do, but I probably won't. That's not a reader. And, but I do know the people I identified with over the years up here, and I will shut up, are the ones that you see. They come in and they raise their hand. I remember one time there was this one person, I won't mention any names. I came to face to face with them for something. And you could just see their eyes welling up. Didn't say anything. Maybe hello when I first seen them. And they just all of a sudden started welling up in tears. And you know how many times I went through life and I identify with that. You didn't have to say anything. I knew you were hurting, and, so many times I could have just wanted to say, I need a goddamn hug every now and then. You know what I mean? But I kept people at bay for so long. So I'm glad I met some of you. Like I said, I'm sure I won't. Warren said he was going to heckle me, so thank God he hasn't done that. So. No, he's awake over there. So. I mean, that's really all I got. I can go on and on about nothing, but I mean, they say it works if you work it, and I believe they're telling the truth, so that's all I got. Thanks.